Thank you, Professor Ono, and good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Eric Ike. I'm Vice Provost and Associate Vice President Academic. Every year at Congregation, UBC has the honor of bestowing honorary degrees upon individuals who, in the opinion of the university community, have fit the criteria of excellence and eminence in their chosen field. ANDRÉ Pierre PICARD is one of those individuals, and I invite him to step forward to receive his honorary degree. Dr. PICARD. Mr. Vice Chancellor, ANDRÉ PICARD is not only a distinguished and award-winning journalist, but also one of this nation's most influential health and public policy commentators. He is the public health reporter and columnist for the Globe and Mail, and the author of several best-selling books, including his most recent work, Matters of Life and Death, Public Health Issues in Canada. He has received a litany of acclaim for his insightful work, including the Michener Award for Meritorious Public Service Journalism, the Canadian Policy Research Award, and the Atkinson Fellowship for Public Policy Research. In 2002, he received the Centennial Prize of the Pan American Health Organization as the top public health reporter in the Americas. And in 2005, he was named Canada's first public health hero, not fellow, mind you, but hero, by the Canadian Public Health Association. Mr. PICARD is also an 8-time finalist for the National Newspaper Awards, Canada's version of the Pulitzer Prize, and in 2010 he was honored as the country's top newspaper columnist. He has been repeatedly recognized and honored by leaders of Canada's nursing profession, including being awarded Canada's Nurses Association Award of Excellence for Healthcare Reporting. His advocacy work has been honored by a number of consumer health groups, including Safe Kids Canada, the Canadian Mental Health Association, the Canadian Alliance on Mental Illness and Mental Health, and the Canadian Hearing Society. In 2012, he received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal for his contributions to improving healthcare in Canada, and he is a recipient of honorary degrees from 4 Canadian universities. Mr. Vice Chancellor, in recognition of his prolific work to critically examine the most pressing healthcare issues confronting policymakers and the people of Canada, I ask you to confer the Doctor of Letters honoris causa upon ANDRÉ Pierre PICARD.
ANDRÉ Pierre PICARD, by the authority of the Senate of this university and the Board of Governors, I am pleased to confer upon you, ANDRÉ Pierre PICARD, the title and degree of Doctor of Letters honoris causa from the University of British Columbia.
Now I'd like to introduce and welcome Dr. PICARD to say a few words.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, Mr. President, Provost, elders, distinguished guests, deeply indebted parents, and the illustrious class of 2017. I'm very touched and humbled to receive an honorary degree from such a fine institution as the University of British Columbia. There's nothing quite like getting a degree without having to do any homework, write any exams, and run up no student debt. And I get this fancy hat to boot. Now, graduates, I'm really impressed by your accomplishments, especially the journalism students whose work I follow. It's very impressive. But I don't envy you. You're heading out into a world, a deeply troubled world, one where the economy is in shambles, many political leaders are unhinged, for lack of a better word. The public is increasingly angry and anxious, And the only certainty is uncertainty. Your generation is going to have to fix this mess that my generation made. Good luck. You're going to have to be creative, adaptable, and resilient. If you're going to heal this sick world, I think you can learn a lot from people who are sick and those who deal with uncertainty and angst on a daily basis. In my work as a health journalist, I meet many people, from those with acute illnesses through to those who live with rare and even fatal conditions, as well as their caregivers and their care providers. I have the privilege of listening to and learning from their fears and frustrations, their hopes and dreams, their wisdom and rage, and their intimacies. They're often very inspiring. I've invited someone here as my guest today who's a caregiver and a really powerful patient advocate in Canada and around the world. Isabel Jordan's son, Zachary, was born just over 15 years ago with an ultra-rare genetic condition, one that causes tumors, chronic joint pain, migraines, and a host of other afflictions. His condition remains a mystery after all these years. Zachary and Isabel can teach us a lot about surviving uncertain times and about resilience. We hear a lot about the word resilience these days, but what does it mean? Well, it's the ability to grow and thrive in the face of challenges, in the face of adversity, something you'll face every day to varying degrees. Zach has some of the best medical care in the world, but that's not really what matters to him or to his family. It's not what matters to people who are sick with cancer or COPD or dementia. When people are sick, when they know there's no cure, even when they're dying, what they care about is quality of life. They're not resigned, they're realistic. They don't expect miracles, but they want and they deserve acceptance and inclusion. In short, they want what everyone wants, respect. We hear a lot about personalized medicine, about drugs and treatments that can be tailored to specific genomic and epigenetic markers. That's the future of medicine. But what people really long for isn't personalized medicine, it's really a personal touch. They crave a human connection, not just care, but caring, a sense of belonging. As a journalist, my job ostensibly is to write, to report, to summarize, to analyze, to inform, to pontificate. You're all going to get that opportunity, or many of you are. But my real job is to listen. Listening is a skill that will serve you all well, whether you've graduated in journalism, creative writing, linguistics, theater, film, history, the many degrees that are represented here. Listening is an art, and listeners, unfortunately, are an endangered species. You can change that. Listening well is more complex than it appears. It requires us to set aside our assumptions and our prejudices. Above all, listening requires us to be quiet, to embrace silence. Accomplished musicians, like your president, Dr. Ono, know that the silence between the notes is as important as the notes themselves. They tell their own story. If you truly listen to someone like Zach, you won't hear a litany of complaints. You'll hear the dreams of a young boy who aspires to be a marine biologist. If you truly listen to someone like Isabel, you won't hear a bleeding heart tale, quite the opposite. You'll hear a rich narrative, rife with the complexity and messiness of everyday life. You'll see resilience and adaptability, and joy and hope. People who are sick, people who are dying, don't need pity. They need practical solutions and genuine supports. Graduates like you, heading into an uncertain world, don't need pity either. You need to forge your own path, to get involved, know what's going on in your community, in your world. You need to care. We go through life these days at a frenetic pace, driven by a lust to succeed, and sometimes an economic necessity that forces us to work and work and work. We're tethered to our phones, to Netflix, Facebook, Twitter, Tinder, 24/7. We walk around with our Bluetooth earpieces and our headphones blaring, enveloped in a technological cocoon, oblivious to our surroundings. Instead of looking around us, we take selfies. The paradox of the modern world is that we've never been more connected or more profoundly isolated and alone. There's an epidemic of loneliness in our country and in the world. Now, don't get me wrong, technology is wonderful, but it should help us build connections and community. It shouldn't be isolating and disempowering. It should be liberating, not enslaving. As I said, I've often had the privilege of speaking to people who are not only sick, but even at the end of life, in their final days and minutes. And it's marvelous. Now that might strike you as an odd word, marvelous, but I'm using it here in its true sense, meaning eye-opening and wondrous. When someone's days are numbered, when their future is uncertain, their priorities tend to change. They tend to focus on what really matters in life, not the superfluous. They don't rush off to work. They make time for life's simple pleasures. They don't obsessively check their Facebook page. They linger with friends. They don't spend time chatting mindlessly on the phone. They crave real one-to-one conversations. And especially, they don't fear dying. What they fear is losing their dignity. They fear being alone. More than anything else, they want to be listened to and to be heard. The same as all of us. The most caring, loving thing you can do for someone, healthy or otherwise, is to listen to them. The very best medicine we have, the greatest gift we can offer anyone, is a listening ear. Without listening, there can be no understanding, no connection, no compassion, and no progress. Today, you're graduating. You've learned a lot in the classroom, and even more outside the classroom, I hope. You've learned by listening and by doing. The best way to repay the gift of this education is to keep learning, by listening to your loved ones, to friends, to strangers, to those in need, and occasionally to glorious silence. This university has provided you with knowledge. You now need to transform that knowledge into wisdom and into action. And then use your wisdom, your passion, and your resilience to help heal this broken world. So thank you all for this great honor. Thank you for listening to me today. It's a beautiful gift. Thank you and congratulations.